Hello and welcome to an AVForums short video overview of the Cambridge Audio CXN100 SE. More specifically, how it compares to the Bluesound NODE ICON, of which we've covered in the past, and we are an enormous fan of at AVForums. The SE is, as its name suggests, a gently updated version, oh God, it's quite a handprint, a gently updated version of the CXN100, which appeared a few years ago. There wasn't a huge amount wrong with the CXN100, and that reflects the fact that Cambridge Audio has been doing this for quite a long time. In fact, I'm delighted if someone comes along and violently disagrees with me in the comments. You can legitimately look to Cambridge Audio for basically coming up with a pattern of streamer which has become pretty much prevalent, certainly at more sensible price points, where you combine both a streaming module with digital inputs and a digital volume control to create the sort of front end of a system. The CXN100 was very, very good at this, but it wasn't perfect. Now the SE seeks to sort of deal with those criticisms as they come. But the basic premise is unchanged. This means that you get, in no particular order, a UPnP streaming module. It's good to 768 kilohertz and DSD512. It supports streaming services of the like that you would expect. Basically everything except Apple Music. There are some more obscure absentees, but nothing too significant. And the other really important thing, and something that's more unusual at this price point than you might think, is that as well as the connect functionality for those streaming services, you can also get content to it via AirPlay, Bluetooth, and Chromecast. More often than not, if we look at key rivals, it's two of those three. But Cambridge, less the audio these days, is of a view that you should have the option for all of them. This means that getting certain things to it is relatively straightforward, and you can do it at the sample rate that it's likely to have actually been created in. You also get a selection of digital inputs, optical and coaxial and USB. The USB mirrors the maximum sample rate of the streaming module. The coaxial and optical top out 192 kilohertz. Everything goes via an ESS 9028 Q2M DAC. I've had to look at my notes for that one because there's just so many of the damn things. That's a naturally balanced DAC because it's 8 channels, so the balanced outputs are functional and true balanced. This is all pretty much in keeping with a CXN100. The big change is the inclusion of an HDMI eARC connection, which previously you'd have had to have sprung for the EXN100 at quite a bit more to have. This is, as best as I can tell, exactly the same implementation as the EXN, which means it has been flawless under test. I've tested it with 2 televisions, an LG unit and a Philips OLED unit, and both of them it's been absolutely viceless. It's the function that we were most upset about not being there on the original CXN, so it's good to have it added. There are still some omissions though, and at this point we might as well bring the Node icon into shot because we start talking about the Node icon at this point. You get different connections from the Bluesound, but one product doesn't necessarily land a killer blow against the other. So the Bluesound has an analog input, which the Cambridge Audio does not go in for at all. That's not part of how they design their products. However, the Cambridge Audio has a coaxial in, the Bluesound doesn't. The Bluesound has a subwoofer out, the Cambridge doesn't. Although if you're using the XLRs, you could use the RCA as a pre-out and vice versa, but exactly the same would apply for the Bluesound as well. More pertinently, the Bluesound has that excellent headphone amplifier. The Cambridge Audio does not. Their view, you'll be using one of their matching amplifiers. It's valid up until a point, but this product is good enough to be used on its own interactive speakers or power amplifier, and the absence of it is something that really does count to the Bluesound. The critical difference between these two products is that the Cambridge Audio has a very simple EQ system where you can inform the app how close the device is to, more pertinently, how the speakers are close to walls, etc. And it will adjust its output ever so slightly to suit. If you spend the extra money, of course, the Icon has got Dirac, and that is going to sort out a problematic room in a way that the Cambridge system is just not. How much this matters to you is going to depend on your room. And just to muddy the waters a bit, when we start talking about control interfaces, it gets a bit more complicated. Now, I like BluOS. I like it a lot. I think it's a good app. I think it's pretty stable, and I think it's pretty easy to use. However, I love StreamMagic. StreamMagic is everything I want in a control app. It is very, very tweakable. You can customize how much information you want on screen. It's very logically laid out. It gets a huge amount of information shown on the screen when you need it to, and it doesn't overburden you with information when you don't need it to. I love little details like the horseshoe-shaped volume control, which means it's almost impossible to suddenly put in too much volume input and break something, which on something with a straight line slider is just about possible to do. Furthermore, if you're using both of these products as preamps, this is not to be underestimated. I actually use the Resident Node icon as a preamp all the time, and I've got used to it. And I don't think these days I'm in any danger of putting any drivers in space. But I'm not going to lie, this is a much, much more pleasant product to use as a preamp because that volume control inspires a degree of confidence. It sort of comes down to sound quality then, really, doesn't it? Because we've traded blows across functionality and features. As you might expect, both of these products are built around ESS hardware. They're both very well implemented, and both of these companies know exactly what they're doing. They do not sound radically different from one another. However, if you asked me to choose between them, I've done some tests into the same bits of equipment, using them both at line level and preamplifiers. I do fractionally prefer the Cambridge Audio. Now, this doesn't come with measurements. I mean, I occasionally take things for my own knowledge, but that's not how I've made this decision. And it is impossible to argue with the possible claim that simply because I enjoy using the app more, I will have subjectively preferred the performance that has resulted from me using this app that I prefer. However, if that's the case, that's almost certainly going to be a repeatable phenomenon for the people that buy the product. So it's something to take into account. If I just have the one product to use though, I would say that CXN100 SE is, by a small margin, the product I enjoy listening to and using a little bit more than I do the Icon. The caveat to that is that I am using it in a room which is relatively well behaved and relatively well treated. If you have a more problematic room, the Cambridge Audio has no answer whatsoever to the things that the Icon is capable of doing if you buy the additional Dirac license. There is also the not inconsiderable detail that if you have lots and lots of rooms to fill, BluOS is going to allow for more rooms and give you a much wider spread of products to put in those rooms than what Cambridge Audio is up to. Although both of them are room compatible, if you pay for the room license, you can quite easily have multiple zones of whatever the hell you like and just control it through Roon. So those are also options. Nevertheless, it swings and roundabouts, but were it my money, and your regular reminder that it's not, I would fractionally choose the Cambridge Audio for one room because I enjoy using it more and I fractionally enjoy the performance. The addition of the HDMI socket hasn't made a radical difference between this and the original CXN100. If you've got an original CXN100, unless you desperately need HDMI out, do not change. There's no other significant differences. But what Cambridge Audio has done is they've brought this right up to the forefront of the streamers at this just sub £1,000 price point. There's no shortage of them to choose from, and plenty of people will find the functionality and options that the Node Icon offers to mean that it is still the superior product. However, the reason I've done this video is this is the first time since the Node Icon has turned up where I've gone, do you know what? This product is the same price and I actually prefer it. So there you have it. A verdict of sorts has been reached. If you've enjoyed this little ramble through these two products, thank you very much. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel because there will be more content, both from myself and my colleagues. And that's pretty much everything. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.